English language teaching. Under the covers.
Hello and welcome to ELT Under the Covers, ELT React, where we, teaching professionals, we look at teaching clips on the internet, the good, the bad and the ugly, and we let you know what we think of them. We give our professional expert opinions. Today we are going to be looking at a famous teacher from the TV show Community. His name is Chang. But first, introductions. I'm Neil, our team teacher.
Hello everybody, it's Professor Reach.
What do you know about Community? What do you know about Chang?
I have nothing. Nope. Don't know anything.
So Community basically revolves around a community college. So, you know, like,
okay.
you know, in the US, because we're both British, they have their private universities and then these other universities that are kind of private, but they're kind of public funded in sometimes, something like that. And it's about older students going to there and the antics they get into. And there's a particular famous teacher in that series called Chang. And as his name explains, he teaches Spanish. So
yeah. Oh, this sounds fun. Yeah, I mean, community college. That's essentially where I'm working now. Just the English version, right? So.
Oh my God! He might be looking in a dark mirror.
Something like that. I mean, actually, my college is primarily aimed at 16 to 19-year-olds, but my students, because they're English language learners, tend to be, well, they're basically all adults. So yeah, so it's a bit of both, really.
Okay.
But totally government funded, pretty much.
Well, let's jump in.
Okay.
Have a look at our first clip of Señor Chang.
Every once in a while, a student will come up to me and ask, Señor Chang, why do you teach Spanish? They say it just like that. Why do you teach Spanish? Why you? Why not Matt? Why not photography? Why not martial arts? I mean, surely it must be in my nature to instruct you in something that's ancient and secret, like, building a wall that you can see from outer space. Well, I'll tell you why I teach Spanish. It is none of your business, okay? And I don't want to have any conversations about what a mysterious, inscrutable man I am. I am a Spanish genius. In Espanol, my nickname is El Tigre Chino. Because my knowledge will bite her face off. So don't question Señor Chang, or you'll get bit. You bit. You bit. Okay, Friday mañana, we'll be having conversations with the rest of the class using some of the phrases we learned in Unit 1. You'll be partnering up in pairs of dos. So if you look under your desk, you'll find a card with either a picture or a word on it, okay? For ejemplo, Blondie aquí has a card with a picture of a house on it. So that means a person with a card with the word casa on it is her partner. Comprende, Star Burns?
Okay, impressions, Rich?
I've got a few comments. First of all, the expression of frustration is interesting, because I think as teachers we do sometimes feel frustration, not necessarily about being judged on our appearance as a Chinese-looking guy, but we might have a frustration about something that hasn't gone quite right. And I think we do have this kind of internal vision of kind of going on a rant like that. I mean, I've certainly had it before. I related a lot actually. Someone did a meme where it was like it was the gladiator thing with the "Are you not entertained?" And I was like, sometimes you do feel like that as a teacher if you put something together, you planned your lesson, you've really put detail into it, and you're like, "Oh, this is going to go well." And then when you do it, it's just bombs like crazy, and you're just like, "Oh, you want to chuck your sword out the arena."
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree with you, and that clip really kind of encapsulates that, and but it's also kind of like that ego check as well for yourself, as where you're like, you keep forgetting that it's not about you. Like when you do the lessons, it's like I really like what I've created, but then it's like, well, if they don't learn, then that your job's not done. But that is kind of like that balance of like artistry that you get with teaching, and also the idea that you just do what's best for the learner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And then sort of moving on from that, I suppose we could talk about the actual teaching methodology going on here. He's code switching quite fast and loose, isn't he?
Yeah.
You a key, and you're gonna work in DOS. I can't imagine that is a particularly good way of learning language. I'm not opposed to code switching, and as time goes on, it does seem to be becoming more and more of a thing, which is becoming accepted in society and as a whole, and therefore probably the language learning classroom as well, even though we've traditionally had this idea of immersion, teaching, and all the rest of it. But doing it that heavily, you know.
Yeah, is it more? I mean, having it in the teaching classroom, like a language teaching classroom. Normally it's either teaching in L1 or L2. There's not so much of this code switching in between generally that we see. But as a society, just as a weird thought that came to my mind, isn't this kind of like the process of what led to kind of to what we have, English now? Like, back in the day, wouldn't it people be in London of old times just kind of code switching all the time, constantly between like French and German and these Scandinavian languages, and everything all just kind of got standardized and in an organic way and put into this thing called English? Is that kind of what we're seeing now, especially like in America, where Spanish words are just code switched out a lot of the time, especially in the South. When you go down there, you're like, oh, people kind of like, it's not really Spanish that they're speaking or English. It's kind of a mixed bag.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, and I think you're probably right. I think that is something that happens all the time. I guess the question is what is happening in the world primarily, like which words are being code switched, which ones are being established, describing the language as it is in the world. And the question is Mr. Chang representing that, or is he just making stuff up? So is he code switching the things that people actually really do code switch in the real life, or is he just code switching in class and making it up off the top of his head?
That's a really interesting point, because what instantly comes to mind is Korea. Like, so when you go to the US, or you go down south close to the like Mexico border, then you will have Spanish words used, but they will be of the meaning in the Spanish word. So they'll say casa, and they'll use it to mean house. They'll just use it in a kind of slang way or something like that. But in Korea, they have English words, but they don't have the same meaning. So when you say something like service, that means a free gift. It doesn't mean anything to do with like what the idea that we have of service. But they also code switch and use the words correctly, and you see it a lot in Korean shows. So it's a really interesting mismatch.
Yeah, I guess that's it, isn't it? It's really complicated, and that's how it works. I mean, it's like that in Spain, isn't it? That they've got loads of English loan words, and they don't have the same meaning at all as the English words. Spinning, like what the hell's that all about? Footing, footing. It's supposed to be jogging or whatever. So, yeah, languages are complicated. It's just, I guess, it's just the question of is this just Mr. Chang language, or is this a real language that he's using, a real mixed language of Spanish and English, or is it Mr. Chang's own language of Spanish and English?
Yeah.
And I think we can suspect it's Mr. Chang's own version from the fact that he's handed out Italian flags to the students.
Well, I was actually hoping to see what was going to happen with that activity, because, you know, like we normally see these clips and it's just kind of like the guy or gal at the chalkboard writing something, and then everyone else is going to do, you know, be inspired or whatever. This one was actually like an activity in class. I was excited. I was like, oh,
True.
this is interesting. You know, they've got the picture and they've got the card, and then I was like, where's it get? Where is that? What's going to happen with this?
Yeah, you almost never see that, do you? You're right. That was interesting. I mean, it sounded like a shit activity, but but it was but at least it was something. It was actual material. You know, someone in the props department's gone out and bought some flashcards of Spanish, and they've actually got a semi-activity going on. Yeah, you don't see it on TV very often.
No. I just wanted to see kind of like maybe where they were going to go with that. You know, because I could totally see that as being like an activity that you would have with the kids. You know, like you would go over, you know, like some vocabulary or something like that, and you know they'd have to go and find the corresponding picture or draw the picture to match the word, and then they have to take that picture around, and you know they present that to the different students in the class, and that person has to kind of tell them what's on that picture, or you know, something like that. And you know, I thought that might be something that he would do, but we'll never know. Dan Harmon, if you're watching this, he's the show creator. What did you have in mind? Where were you going? Come on the show, break down your pedagogy.
Oh, that sounds a good idea. Yeah, come on, Dan.
Yeah,
about time.
Also Rick and Morty guy as well. So you know, one half.
He won't come on the show then. It's like a mega hipster. He'll be one of those people that avoids the media for sure.
Well, yeah, possibly. Do you have any more comments on that particular clip?
No, I think that's it. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's have a look.
The difference between usted and tú is a matter of formality. Pepe, usted es viejo. You are old. Alberto, usted es feo. You are ugly. Thanks. Shakira. Y tu Paco? Soy. Ustedes están sucios. You are dirty. Dude. Still formal, but plural. Because while both are dirty, neither are my friends.
Great. What a what a punchline. Although you're both dirty, neither are my friends. That's well delivered. Well delivered. Interesting. We got a demo anyway.
Yeah.
Evocative. There's a lot of affective depth there, isn't there? Students will remember this. They will remember it. Something to be said for that, actually. He's murdering his pronunciation. And being offensive as a teacher, that's a risky game.
It is. But you know what? I have... It's going to sound like it's going to be offensive. No. But you know what? I do often give kind of nicknames to students, or do I will reference back certain things from previous classes that were like funny, and I'll try and incorporate that into the class. So I think that's kind of like the similar thing that he's doing here, except he's really just going in there to push the buttons, and he certainly will be memorable. I'm surprised he's not been fired for kind of being racist or abusive, but
yeah. I mean, I'm all about the evocative things in class. I think every kind of emotion has sort of a place. Well, not every kind. I mean, maybe anger is not the greatest thing to be displaying in class, but bringing a lot of emotion into the class, it does help things to be memorable. Sometimes I like things to get really silly, sometimes serious even. I mean, I had a class the other day where I did a dogme. I'll have to speak to you about it. I prepared a load of stuff and then found out, because it was a shared class, one of the other teachers had done it, and I had no time at all. And I was like, "That's it. I'm gonna do a dogme." It was kind of a dogme / dialogic story, because I did have like 10 minutes to prep some stuff, so I like bashed it out in a Word document. And I have to say, it's probably one of my best classes for a while. Actually, it went really, really well. So I'd have to speak about it at some point, maybe when we talk about dogme next. But anyway, it was about this kind of unanticipated house move that's going on in my life at the moment. That's kind of how I structured the class. And of course, I teach refugees, asylum seekers, and people with settled status in the UK who've come over. So they got quite a lot to say on the subject of unanticipated house moves, actually, and some pretty serious things to say. So it was quite interesting. We were able to have that discussion without it getting, without it crossing the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see that it meant a lot to the students. I felt like they were their brains would turn into this sponge for information because they were so engaged. You could see it, and you could see the language just go. It's just getting sucked in. Like one lady told me the first apartment she had when she arrived in England. One day, the police phoned her while she was at work, and they said, your apartment's basically been totally trashed. Turns out an Albanian gang were growing cannabis like in the basement, and then a rival gang like came in and trashed all the apartments.
Wow.
Or something. Yeah, just like totally mental. I think and this had happened in like 2017 or something, so it was some time ago. But to have a student like talk about that in class, it's a real experience. It's serious. There's emotions involved, and everyone's super engaged. And she was able to speak about it, without too much concern now, because it was some time ago. But it's it's really, it's a perfect opportunity. Opportunity is the wrong word, but it's great for a language teacher to see that kind of stuff come out, because you're just like, oh, this is fantastic. Student produced language, student produced story, everyone's into it, and some other people had some interesting things to say as well. So yeah, my point with all this is that any sort of strong emotions have a place in the English in the language learning classroom, because they will make things more memorable. It's just a case of, where is the line, and making sure that you control that to some extent. And when it comes to things like offense, because I know both me and you we can go walk the line of being offensive sometimes, just because it's kind of fun, or it can, whatever. But yeah, as a teacher, you have to be a little bit careful. I probably tread a little bit too close to it sometimes. But,
well, no, I mean,
15 years, it's been okay so far.
It's the only way that you learn, right? Is if you get kind of close to that line, and occasionally you'll cross over. But just as long as you kind of rectify that, then you now tested the boundaries, and you're better able to walk that way. but I completely agree. And, I think there's more and more emergent research showing how much memory is connected with our emotions. It's pretty much confirmed that, if you're depressed, you are more likely to only be able to retrieve memories, or more negative memories, that and it's same for being, where you have like more positive emotions. When you're happy, you start to remember more of the happy times. There's times when I've gone through really difficult periods, and it's hard to get out of there, because it's like a reinforced mindset, because that's all that you're seeing. The whole world is through these darkened glasses. And to tie that into learning, I think is really key. And for what you're describing, is these are emotional points for them, and what you're doing is feeding a need that they didn't know that they had, in that they probably have this really emotionally charged memory or story that they have, and they've got no way, there's no outlet for it. And then suddenly you come along and offer up this plate of language, and they're able to devour it down, and now they're able to communicate this big ball of energy that they've got inside of them, and release it out. And it's incredibly useful, and why I think it is so engaging, because it's an outlet for that energy. In the same way, I think I've talked about it before, that there was a reading program in the US for convicts that would offer them graded readers, and these convicts would go through the different graded readers to get to a like a college level reading level. And what they found was, during that time, the higher they went with the graded readers, the more likely they were, the less likely they were to reoffend, because they had a different outlet for all that energy inside. It's a thing that I'm very passionate about, especially when talking about this with like men and stuff, is we just as more of a male side of things, but what with guys, there's less of a focus on talking about like emotions and stuff like that. It's just kind of like anger, but then once you discover that anger is kind of like that blunt instrument that disguises a lot of other emotions underneath, you kind of realize, oh, how retarded you are when talking about your own emotions, because when you're angry because your girl went to the club or something like that, and you're not angry, you're scared because someone that you love, you think might get picked up by some other guy or something like that. I know it's a really lame example, but it's not.
It's an interesting one, though.
Yeah, but I think it's really important, and it's one of the things that I'm most proud of as being a language teacher, is that we're offering these students a way to fully express themselves, and if you do it really well, they're able to express themselves in a way that's even more so than their own language. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that makes it so interesting being a teacher, I suppose. But yeah, so we've got some positive out of that rather incredibly offensive and almost certainly something that would cause a teacher to lose their job. We have come up with something which,
this is what we do here. What is what we do? We take a lemon and we turn it into a lemon cheesecake.
A gold lemon.
A gold lemon. We paint it. Okay, I think we've got one more clip that we can round this off with.
Hola, losers.
Hola.
Winger, may I have a word with you in private? Sure. Good. Okay, come back in 10 minutes, and if anyone asks, I sent you to learn things.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, that's brilliant. So, yeah, it's a bit of a. Can I say this? So I have occasionally, sometimes, let my students go home early, and
What?
I kind of, I kind of understand, I kind of understand his comment there. Like, if anyone asks, tell them I sent you to learn things. Yeah, that's whoever wrote this show does have an understanding of teaching. I think there's some insights here that I think only a teacher, someone who's been a teacher,
Interesting.
actually
I
get.
don't know any
Yeah.
details of the background of like Dan Harmon, who's like the main writer, or other writers, but it makes sense if he wanted to write a whole series about community college, that he'd have some sort of link to that.
Or someone on his writing team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah. My version of that was I tell them when you leave the classroom, turn left so you don't walk past any of the other classes, and leave the building. Don't hang around. So just totally disappear, basically. It's if they're milling around waiting for their mates in the corridors, then it's like, that's funny. Why is this class finished 15 minutes early? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Here's, close the door, please. Gracias. Other side of the door. So, you're here because your college degree was fake, right?
I prefer the term better than real, but yes.
2 questions. Where did you get it? Could you have prevented being caught? And how?
One question. Where did you learn to count questions? And are you telling me you need a fake degree?
You know, in high school, I was in a band. We could have been huge, but the world wasn't ready for an Asian man on guitar.
Did you say keytar, or did you just pronounce guitar like a hillbilly?
Guitar? It's a keyboard you can play like a guitar? Get with the times, man. Anyway, next thing you know, I'm 32, and I'm bagging groceries for like $5 an hour plus tips. Shocked?
Confused. I'm supposed to tip my bag boy?
So I did what anyone would do. I faked my way into a job as a Spanish teacher at a community college, relying on phrases from Sesame Street.
Oh my God.
Punishment winger, all right? If the dean finds out that I'm not a real teacher, your grades are invalid, and you'll all have to repeat this class. That was a chair.
So we got the backstory. We got the backstory there, Rich.
That's right. That's interesting. Baking qualifications. That's something I can quite honestly, and I don't know if I'm particularly proud about it, but one thing I can quite honestly say about as a language teacher is I've actually never claimed to have a qualification that I haven't got.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I don't know if people should go around lying about their qualifications. I know that the real world can be very frustrating sometimes when you find out just because you didn't spend 3 or 4 years getting a piece of paper somewhere that you are not eligible for a certain job, even if you do have the experience and acumen and talent to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand that frustration. And I remember when I first started language teaching, I kept applying for jobs at the British Council, and they just wouldn't even look at it. No CELTA, not interested. And then when I got the CELTA, you need 2 years. And then when I got the 2 years, eventually I got like this really rubbish like weekend slot, and they were kind of looking down upon me. And then finally, I think when I got the dip, I felt like they actually took, like, I could apply to institutions like the British Council and pretty much guarantee an interview then. Like, they actually took it seriously. But Jesus, that was a lot of like pieces of paper that I had to get. And it was really frustrating at the start, just not being just like, oh no, you haven't got that. Well, we're not.
When do you think you were ready for British Council? Were you ready before the dip?
Yeah, I was. You see, this is the thing, right? I think that although I was an inferior teacher when I started, obviously. And 2 years after I started, and 5 years after I started, and after I got the, when I got the dip, you're constantly improving as a teacher. So of course I was an inferior teacher, but was I below, let's say, all the other teachers who are currently working at that particular British Council Centre? I would say no,
Yeah.
because some of them were kicking back and doing whatever. You always get shit teachers in a place, don't you? You're not going to get
Yeah.
somewhere where everyone's great. So they've got all the pieces of paper, and I I didn't at the time. Yeah, I think I could have worked there. They could have took me on part-time even before I had a CELTA. And the thing is that the British Council, because this is the thing, Neil, I wanted to get better and you wanted to get better when we first started teaching. We were doing homework. We were looking, we were reading about how to teach and stuff like that. And if you have that attitude, somewhere like the British Council, you can grow quickly because they encourage things like peer observations and inset training sessions and stuff like that. So the institution itself, if someone has the right attitude, if someone actually wants to teach, which at the time I did, and well, I still do, and wants to improve, then they have a lot of opportunity to do it and financial incentives. They pay you to come to the insets, So yeah, actually, and I find that incredibly frustrating. I do understand why institutions use these paper-based filters, because when you're dealing with, things en masse, statistically, it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes sense to hire the person who has all the pieces of paper because it's going to save you a lot of hassle. But it's from the other side, it's really frustrating, especially if you kind of know that you have the ability and the passion to be good at something. And then it's just like, oh, well, go away, go and spend thousands and thousands of pounds and, maybe a year or a couple of years getting certificates and stuff. And then we'll give you an interview,
Yeah. It's hard to filter people out. And, it's, as you point out, it's not 100%. Even if you have all the paper, you still get these teachers that, you
get teachers who don't care.
Yeah, don't care, or, I hate using the word bad because it doesn't really define much, but, get
stuck in their ways, or
and it's they will have started their English teaching career, and they will have started it by doing a CELTA, and then that CELTA will get them a decent position somewhere where they work for a year or two, kind of like spinning their wheels, not really growing because they've done their CELTA, they don't have to do any more learning, and then they're like, oh well, I want to go to a different country now, oh, I'll apply to British Council, and they might get in, and then you've got the opposite person that's spent 10 or 15 years in Asia with absolutely zero qualifications, just kind of reading online, watching YouTube videos, going to watch other people teach classes and stuff like that, on their own dime, that are way better. But it's all done autonomously, and they would have been a much better fit for British Council. Yet this person, with that CELTA, they get hired, and it's not fair. And I don't think British Council or other of these higher end institutions want that. But what are they supposed to do?
What they should do is they should make the interview into teaching, and they say, right, here's what we want you you're going to teach this class, this level, this is what you're going to teach. You just teach a 15-minute slot or something like that, and that's your interview. So you just all you need then is a bunch of students who want some free classes, right? They need to be level tested, so they need to be at the level. Sit them in the class, and then the interviewers sit at the side, and you get your candidates in one after the other, and they teach a 15-minute slot. I mean, from that, you're going to get a lot from that. even if a teacher comes in who and they're kind of doing things wrong because they haven't been, say, CELTA trained, but you'll see passion, you'll see creativity, you'll see, you know, I mean, you can see if someone's a good teacher, can't you? You know, okay, people can have good and bad days. It's just a 15-minute slot. It can still go wrong. Same thing could happen with interviews.
Yeah.
You know, someone that doesn't sleep well the night before, they have an interview, they bomb it, you know. So that's what I would do anyway. I would say make it pragmatic. I want to see people doing what I'm going to hire them to do. And then I'll make a decision. Are they the best person for this position?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of logistics with that from a hiring manager perspective that I'm just like, the amount of work to do that. But if that's what you if you want to get a good candidate, then, you know, I would agree with you. It's like, how long are they going to stay, and how often do you have to do this process? Because it sounded laborious. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Nothing's neat and tidy.
Sure.
Nothing's neat and tidy.
Yeah.
It'd be better if they could just record a class and, you know, like send that through to you as an example of work or something like that. But even then,
that's different, isn't it? You can doctor stuff like that, and you can, you know, you can make it look better than it is. And yeah, I'd want to see it live personally. But anyway, we're kind of going off point a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah. Okay, so overall thoughts on Chang? Anything that you want to, leave us with?
Well, he's funny, memorable, and his classes actually seem engaging in a weird way. However, he can't speak Spanish, and he doesn't know how to teach. And I think in the real world, he'd be fired.
Yes, very quickly, I would imagine. But those out there that are watching, that are listening, what did you think of Señor Chang? Is he a teacher that you would like to have? Is he a teacher that you would like to be? Please leave your comments below, and remember to check out eltunderthecovers.com, and remember to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell, because we've got more videos like this on the road, down the road, in the pipeline, all that jazz. Till next time.
Down the road.
If you're looking for more information from myself, you can go to teamteacherchina.com. We've got a whole bunch of materials, PowerPoints that you can use instantly in the classroom. We've got a Team Teacher China YouTube channel where we have videos teaching you how to use those materials. Team Teacher English, where we put those materials into a video form for self-study. And Team Teacher Baby, where I take my experience as a teacher and put that into parenting.
And go to youtube.com/Professor Rich to see some English teaching. You can catch me weekly live streams on Oxford Online English YouTube channel. Oh, and also you can do a YouTube search for POG Space UK, and you would get my alpha version of my new gaming channel, which actually just have some trial content on there at the moment. You can email us here at eltunderthecovers@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to contribute to the show.
Smash that like button, share and subscribe.
And watch 100% of the video and don't click off. Thank you.
Bye.